I think the film explores a really fascinating world of the power of music within the neurological science to bring people with Alzheimer's back into reality, or at least try. Can you tell us a little about that? I know there was an investigation from a group of doctors in Canada, and maybe that inspired the film. I don't know.
So yes, the use of music in the movie and really the exploration of the power of music was very much something that we wanted to explore. I mean, we all had family members or relatives or friends that were, affected by this debilitating disease. And, how strange that as they're looking for pharmaceutical, medical cures and ways to manage the Alzheimer's and dementia, we have music right under our noses that, is both safe, very, I guess, cost effective to implement. And I know, my writer, Alessandra Piccione, had spent many months with Baycrest Hospital with some of the most brilliant minds at the forefront of the research. So there were scientists and doctors that were really studying the neurological effect of music on the brain. So we actually, in some selfish ways, we took that information and used it for our own benefit. I mean, I use music therapy to get me out of bed and push through the debilitating fear of getting up and going on set every day. And I also requested to have music play between takes. So, by the second day, everybody was requesting it, whether it was the crew or the actors. They started getting used to. It's just a way of easing them into a mindset or a feeling very quickly, and we were all on the same page in a short amount of time. Music is so powerful. And
yeah, I went to Cuba twice. I think it's a fascinating island.
Yes.
It's a small island. It had many problems with the embargo, the U.S. embargo and all that. But there's something very powerful about the population, and I think it's the relationship with music. Can you comment on that?
Yes. So Cuban culture is very much reflected through the music. Whether it's through the diaspora of Cubans all around the world, or whether it's in Cuba itself, and it's infectious. It's when you look at a country with its own challenges and limitations, and just lack of resources, frankly. I mean, they're able to transcend those challenges through their spirit, through the joy of who they are as Cubans. And it's a beautiful place to study and just to kind of observe and reflect, because there's no racial tensions, that the music transcends racial barriers. Like if you look at Afro-Cuban jazz, it has roots in Spain with the Spanish flamenco guitar and, African rhythms that were incorporated. It's like a beautiful fusion of music, people, experiences, and history.
Louis Gossett Jr., I interviewed him the other day because he's part of an HBO show. He's an adorable person, great human being. How important was it for you to get this Oscar-winning to play Luis Garcia?
Getting Lou Gossett Jr. to play Luis was essential. I mean, the role was written for him. It started as a short film, and our producing team went to the ends of the earth to try to get to him. So we would stop at nothing, whether it was to the young producers to chase him down at a TIFF event, to going through mutual friends that we had. We just kept approaching him from all different angles, and finally he said, "I can't ignore these people anymore." And I had a wonderful encounter with him in Malibu when he used to live there, and being in his home, it hit me. As soon as I sat down, I looked around and I saw the poster for Roots and his Oscar on the mantle and Officer and a Gentleman, all these great accolades and Emmys that he had received. And that's when I became extremely, intimidated for a moment. I said, wow, I'm in the presence of greatness. And, but he has such a charm about him, such a childish spirit that is infectious. And having him on the set was a joy, and he elevated all our game. I mean, he brought us to 100% every day.
So Sergio, how important was it for you to have within the narrative the Alzheimer's patient in the young 19-year-old girl helping him, and she's coming of age, and he's not coming of age on the other side. A different situation.
Yes. So
They,
I
they,
think,
they get yeah, they work together really well.
well, the two characters, the young Afghan nurse, Mina, played by Anna Golia, is, I mean, it is in so many ways a coming of age story. So her encounter with this enigmatic older gentleman, who we find out has Alzheimer's, and then through their encounters, we discover he was a one-time very famous Cuban musician. They learn from each other. You know, he's able to impart all this wisdom and knowledge and experience, and really help her come into her own. And she helps give him his final hurrah. You know, like it's he got to express himself one last time, you know, in this final chapter in his life. So it's a very beautiful exchange, and it transcends cultural barriers and also generations. I mean, he's in his 80s and she's, you know, barely 20. So it's the fact that they're able to find a common ground through music is really beautiful, I think.
If I ever get Alzheimer's, I will listen to Cuban music.
It will work.
It will work. But let me ask you, how deteriorating, I don't know if the word is deteriorating, what was the impact of the C-19 and the releasing of the film? I know it was ready for May 21st, and now it's a different way of marketing and a different way of releasing the movie, right?
We're, you know, admittedly, we're in a different world right now. And the interesting part is that whoever we speak to, we're all in this together. There's not a person on the planet that hasn't been somehow affected by COVID-19 and this global pandemic. I think we're ultimately in unprecedented times. I'm really seeing it as a renaissance period because, you know, I mean, artists have always been at the forefront of truth throughout history. So, you know, I think collectively it's our responsibility to continue forging on and really leading with our voices. As scared as we are, as vulnerable as we are, and as affected as we are by this very tragic global event, you know, in some ways we have this platform to maybe bring some light and bring an uplifting experience into people's lives. So that's very powerful.
I think there's a silver lining aspect of the pandemic, but maybe I'm wrong. Considering that Hollywood is not opening those huge blockbusters because it's financially a disaster. I mean, they're waiting for the theaters to open. Well, they're doing some on streaming, but I think that the vacuum of these products are giving you guys, the independent filmmakers, an opportunity to cover the need of people to be in be satisfied with storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the Cuban will have more impact in our culture than if it had to compete with the latest Batman and Robin. You know,
yeah. I think the silver lining is that the landscape is a lot less noisy. And I think just generally speaking, as a collective, as we've seen with Black Lives Matter and all the other things that have come this year, is that we're vulnerable. There's a reckoning happening, and I call it 2020 vision. We're finally looking at our lives, our values, our communities, our society, and saying, how can we do better? So I think the fact that we have this window of opportunity to bring this movie out is, I mean, it's a perfect storm, really. It's sad that, you know, people are dying all around the world. That's the tragic part. But last night we had our Toronto premiere, and there was so much joy. I mean, it was a drive-in theater. We did a drive-through red carpet. I mean, the whole thing was just, I mean, so wild and beyond my imagination. But what I came away with is just how happy people were just to be out and socializing in their own bubbles in a very safe environment. But there's a lot of pent-up kind of desire to be out, and so that was very rewarding.
My last question: what brought you into filmmaking?
Oh wow, how much time do we have? So
a
few minutes. What brought me into filmmaking is really, you know, like many people, I had dreams as a child to get into film. I remember my parents taking me to Italian movies in our, in our local community, there was an Italian theater in Toronto where they play these schlocky Italian movies and some great ones. And I just remember how much joy it brought to my parents. And I thought, this is an art form that I want to be a part of. If I can, move more than just my parents and really use the power of it to really affect people, what a privilege to be able to do that. So that's really, as an art form, it's a great way to express oneself, and it's also collective. It's like a collaboration of artists. I get to work with people like Hilario Duran, who's Grammy nominated virtuoso pianist from Cuba, and Shohreh Aghdashloo, who's an Oscar nominated actress. I mean, what a joy to be able to learn from these other artists.
So now, Sergio, we're ready for your next movie.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to shoot it in here.
How long do we have to wait?
Who knows? Listen,
if in the burner.
Yeah, I mean, I'm rethinking everything. Like, what do I want to spend my time doing? And I do have some projects that we're developing. My company, Snap Films, with my partner Alessandro Piccione. I'm revisiting movies like Newlyweds, that was made for under $10,000, or My Summer in Genoa with Colin Firth, that was made with 5 or 8 person crew. Those are the simple movies that I want to tell, whether it's a two-hander or just simple stripped down movies that take us back to, neorealism, like even the movie Roma. I mean, it was epic, big in terms of production, but the story is simple, and we need to get back to simple storytelling.